So if I pulled out 24 t-shirts out of a bag and showed them to a client, they'd be very confused as to what to pick. And as a result, I wouldn't get that many selections. Whereas if I pulled them out in groups of 4 and showed 4 at a time and explained about each of those particular items one at a time, and then asked them which ones they liked, they would be more likely to choose 2 from each group of 4.
Welcome to the Master Dealmakers Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmakers Secrets. This is episode 208. And today we are going to talk about how you can pre-handle the 3 most common objections that you're going to get in your sales role. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the 80-20 on what stops or stalls sales from going through. So getting objections means that you didn't qualify well enough. If you are being T-boned with either price, timing, or spouse objections after you present an offer, it means that in most cases you forgot to ask about those potential blockers before you actually made an offer. So the 3 biggest objections that need to be pre-handled, I just mentioned them. They're price, timing, or spouse. So we need to handle those ones. There are another 6, but those 3 are the most common. So we're going to deal with the 80-20. We're going to deal with the 20% that cause 80% of the stalls. So firstly, let's look at the other 3 reasons why objections happen. Okay, so the first one is they are confused. And what we know is the confused mind always says no. And as an example of this, I used to sell shoes and I used to sell t-shirts and lots of surfwear. And what I found is that if I pulled out a whole range of shoes, the client was confused. They were confused as to what to pick. So if I pulled out 24 t-shirts out of a bag and showed them to a client, they'd be very confused as to what to pick. And as a result, I wouldn't get that many selections. Whereas if I pulled them out in groups of 4 and showed 4 at a time and explained about each of those particular items one at a time, and then asked them which ones they liked, they would be more likely to choose 2 from each group of 4. And as a result, I got way, way better numbers because the confused mind always says no. And the human brain literally can't hold in it anymore than about 4 or 5 things plus or minus 2 on average. So it's a pretty long way of going about telling you that the confused mind always says no. So if your offer is confusing or you haven't made the offer clear or they're confused about something, they will tend to say no. The second one is they don't trust you. So there needs to be a level of trust. So will depend on what they know about you. It will depend on how well your brand is positioned. It can depend on a lot of things, but often it's the reason that someone either stalls or says no is because they don't trust you. And the third one is that they don't trust themselves. So they don't trust themselves to make a decision. So those are the other reasons why people tend to not go ahead. But today I want to talk about the top 3 objections. We can talk about the other 3 reasons why people don't go ahead on a later podcast. So these are the most common. As I said, they are spouse or I need to talk to my business partner. They are price or they are, I think I might leave this. I don't think I want to do this now. It's a timing thing. So what we need to do is rather than wait until we've gone through and we've, showed them, they've made some kind of a selection or we've recommended a particular solution or a product for that particular person, and then we make an offer, rather than go all the way through and make an offer and have them hit us with one of these stalls or objections, the best thing to do is to pre-handle them. So how do we pre-handle them? The first one is why us? When they say, when there's no trust, or when there's no, when we're not positioned, they're comparing apples to apples. So they might be getting 6 quotes from 6 different companies. And we know that if they perceive us as the same as everyone else, We're just going to be compared on price. So one of the best questions you can ask is, so, out of all the other options that you could have chosen, any particular reason that you decided to contact us? Now, there's a couple of different responses to that. And if they say, oh, you were referred to us from my sister who said that you guys were amazing and that, I would be silly to go and work with anyone else, that's good, right? Whereas if they said, oh, I just Googled your product, your business category, and you guys came up, well, you've got some work to do to try to make sure that they perceive you as different. Otherwise, they're just going to get you, they're going to get 2 other quotes, and they're just going to go with the lowest possible price. So why us is a really, really important question to ask, to see what is it that they perceive as being different from you versus the other options that they have to choose from. And then when they answer that, ask them to explain, I really liked the pictures on your website, or, my sister used you and said you were amazing. Oh, okay, cool. Can you tell me specifically what your sister said that really jumped out at you and made you decide to give us a call as opposed to anyone else that you could have dealt with? So that's a really important one. The second one is timing. So one of the best things that you can do to pre-handle the potential timing objection is to say, so why do you want to get this done now? Why is this a now conversation? Especially if it was like a home improvement thing, we want to landscape, or we want to get an alarm system put in, or, we want to do up our garage. It's like, okay, well, how long have you been here for? Oh, I've been here for 6 years. Oh, okay. Any particular reason that you want to get this done now? And that will give you urgency, right? How much urgency is there? Or, why do you want to get this done now? Oh, because, we really want to have this holiday because we want to, make sure that we all go away as a family before the kids get too old and they leave home, So you want to make sure that there is a level of urgency. Why? Because would you prefer a motivated client or one that can kind of take it or leave it? And the reason I ask that is that there is an opportunity cost in chasing somebody who is not that motivated. So if you go all the way through and you haven't qualified someone particularly well, and you make an offer and they say, yeah, I'll get back to you. And then you ring them next week and they're like, oh yeah, can you give us a couple of weeks? And why is that? It's because you didn't qualify them, or in this case, you didn't disqualify them. And now you're stuck with following up somebody who's saying that they're interested, but they're not actually taking any action. So there's a big payoff for getting better at qualifying people up front. The other one is the other decision maker. So if you're dealing with in a business to consumer type setup, and you're dealing with a husband, they might want to talk, and their wife isn't there. They could use that. They could say, oh, I need to check with my wife. Or if you're talking to a wife, they can use that. They can say, oh, I need to check with my husband. So how do we deal with that? Well, ideally, we need to pre-handle it. So how do we pre-handle it? Well, we either make sure that the other partner is present at the next meeting, or we get them involved on some level. Maybe we ring them. Maybe we ring them straight away and get them on speakerphone. But we need to involve them. In fact, there are some businesses out there. There's some home improvement. I think they do garage doors where they won't go and see anyone unless both the husband and wife are present at the meeting. So we need to get them involved, make sure that they're at the meeting. If they're not, which often happens, they might even say that they're both going to be there, but one isn't there, is explore with the person that is there. Okay, so tell me, does your partner know we're having this conversation? So at the very least, bring it up. Does your partner know that we're having this conversation? Yes. Okay. And is she just as excited about getting this done as what you are? Yes. Okay. And so tell me, what are you going to say if after I leave today and you go and talk to her, what are you going to say if she's not that excited? What are you hoping that she's going to say? Oh, I'm hoping that she's going to say yes. Cool. How do you guys normally make decisions like this? You know what I mean? So it bears some investigation. And one of the things that you can do is you can say, well, what are you going to say if she's not that interested? Oh, I'm going to tell her this. Well, in that situation, you can give the person who you are talking to, that you have made the offer to, you can give them some specific things that they can say to the other person that explain the offer in more detail, because they're probably not going to be very good at explaining the offer that you've just made to them. So if you can give them three really good reasons, why this is a good deal, why the timing's good, and why it's going to really, really benefit them, well, then they will be pre-armed when they have that conversation with the spouse. So ideally, you want to make sure that they're both present. If you can't do that, best thing you can do is to give them some coaching as to how to have that conversation with them. So the next one is money. And so what's interesting about money is salespeople are scared to bring it up. When you ask somebody what their budget is, they will often not tell you, like a buyer will not tell you. And so I recently discovered a really cool way to bring up money, right? To bring up budget. So if someone's like, what was your budget for this? Or conversely, they might be saying, well, how much is this going to cost? They might ask you that, way up front before you've asked them any questions. And so there's a couple of different schools of thought on this. From a sales perspective, if you've just started a conversation with someone and they ask you how much something's going to be, normally the best thing to do is to say, well, look, it's kind of hard for me to be able to tell at this point. Is it okay if I asked you a few questions just to sort of see if this is even right first before I sort of work out exactly how much it's going to cost? I can give you an exact figure at that point, right? But they might insist. They might say, well, how much? How much is it going to cost? So the other day I discovered this way, which I think is really cool. So either they're asking you or you're trying to ask them for what their budget is. You can say, well, look, a low point for a project like this would be X dollars. A high point for a project like this would be Y dollars. So actually give them a low point and give them a high point, and then say an average transaction size for a project like this would be this in the middle. And then say the things that would make it on the high side, the elements that would make it a high side, the factors that would make it on the high side would be this, this, and this. And the things that would make it more so on the low side would be this, this, and this. So what have you done? You've just given them the maximum amount it could potentially cost. You've given them the lowest amount that it could potentially cost. And you've also given them an average transaction size, which is pretty cool. At that point, you can ballpark them. And so is that, it'd be a lot easier for me to be able to give you an exact figure once I've asked you a few questions, but does that answer that question? So you're not being evasive. They don't feel like you're not answering the question. So just to recap, we have talked about how to pre-handle the money objection, how to pre-handle the other decision maker or the spouse objection. We've talked about how to deal with the timing objection, and one of the best questions you can ask there is, so is this a later thing for you or a sooner thing, right? And also understanding the motivation. How urgent is this, and what is the timing? And then the other one was trust. So again, one of the best questions to ask is, so any particular reason that you decided to contact us? Because that will give you how well you are perceived, how much more value do they perceive in what you're offering as opposed to your competitors, which shows you whether you need to create or uncover a bigger point of difference with this particular person or not. So if you use those pre-handlers, you will allow yourself to disqualify people that you probably shouldn't make an offer to. And you will also make sure that when you actually make your offer, you will be way more likely for them to actually say yes. So as I said, they're the three biggest. There's about another 6 others, which we cover in my program, which you are more than welcome to contact me about. But armed with the responses to how to pre-handle those 3 big ones, or 4 big ones, because you've got the trust one in there as well, I am sure that you will convert more sales. As always, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you on the next podcast. Cheers.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies and maximize your sales process with new episodes every other week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive, free, no fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.